Good morning. Welcome to the Berrien County Finance Committee meeting. At this time, I would like to ask our speaker, Stephanie, to call the roll.
Commissioner Yarborough,
Present.
Commissioner Harrison,
Here.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Annette, would you take over the
Yeah, absolutely.
agenda?
So your first thing on your agenda this morning is Building and Ground Superintendent Todd Johnson with 3 different projects that he's going to do. It looks like an update on.
Okay. Please go ahead, Mr. Johnson, Director.
All righty. I'm assuming you guys got the memo. I have somebody talking back here. Okay. That I sent out there. There's 3 projects here that we want to get going prior to the end of the year. First one was a jail intake project, which there's been some talk about this UPS, the uninterrupted power source that we needed to replace. In the original prints, it was in there to be removed because the new equipment that was going in there did not need that backup. It had its own. What they failed to realize is that there is still old equipment that was remaining in there that ran monitors, mainly for central control, and some other things, and even master control. So the UPS is needed to be in there. Now, currently that UPS has failed, it's out. There is no backup right now. So we do need to replace it. There's a cost in there, it's $33,000 for this new UPS. This is outside of the kind. Usually you would see this in a change order type situation, but we're at the point now that I feel because of them not doing their due diligence that I'm not willing to pay them their 10% of overhead handling bond issue. So we're just going to do it directly from us to the electrician to take care of that. And they agree, they're fine with it. But still need your approval to move forward with that.
Okay. We're going to do each one of these by each. The approval is what, that we agree, or do we need a motion?
That's probably a motion.
I would think so.
Yeah, we should probably do a motion on that, Mamie.
Okay, may I have a motion, please, to upgrade or to add a new uninterrupted power source, UPS?
I make that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A support, please?
Commissioner Scott, I support.
Thank you. Any discussion about it, members?
Yes, Commissioner
Please.
Scott. Todd? Have you checked with Brian or have we checked with legal corporate counsel yet on this change basically by going direct to the electrician rather than to go through the general contractor, because we are under a general contractor's contract for the jail. And it is mentioned in there about that coming out, but you understand what I'm saying? I mean, I don't have a problem with buying this and getting it put in. I don't want to get caught up in a legal ramification with the contractor saying, I want my extra 10% because this was part of the job.
Right. No, I did talk with Frederick about this, which they are good with it. The other part too is that the actual replacement is not in the scope of their contract.
So Todd, this is Bob Harrison. Is this a defect of the work done by the consultant where they didn't identify that we're going to need some things still on a UPS?
It was something they missed, but this one's kind of a tough one because that UPS was there just before they even got here. It was slated to be replaced on our capital list. It since then went down. But the discussion was always that the new equipment that went in there had its own power source. We didn't need to replace that. Well, after further investigation, we realized that there's still some old equipment that will stay in there.
Okay.
That we prior had, so it really didn't have anything to do with them. It was our stuff that we should take care of. And,
Sure.
and it wasn't part of their scope, so it was kind of a gray area on, whether they should have. Personally, you would think that they would know everything that was going into that server room, but they didn't on this one. They just looked at what their equipment was and what their specifications were, and that was the end of it. They didn't look at what we already had in there that we need to continue on and integrate into the new system. So. I think they dropped the ball, but I think it's one of those that would be hard to pinpoint onto them. I did talk with corporate on some of the other issues we talked about last time we met, which I've discussed him once. We got budgets going on. Once we get through all that, I've got some things for him. We talked about just to find out what kind of format he wants from the other issues we've had throughout the whole contract. But I had talked to him, not specifically about the UPS, but we are agreeing with Frederick, so.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just to follow up on Todd's response to the question about whether or not he's engaged corporate counsel, I just want to take five minutes and just make this board aware that corporate counsel will likely be engaged on a very similar issue just related to the jail project. Yesterday, the sheriff and undersheriff reported that they had some of the original cameras that are failing, and they are slated for replacement, but there is going to be a time delay, a gap in that replacement. So as of last night, I was communicating with the board chair, with the sheriff, with the undersheriff, about getting a timeline as to when the contractor will have those cameras replaced. And the board chair was encouraging me to work with corporate counsel to have some pressure applied to the contractor as well as to the project manager, just to ensure that we are all on the same page about the importance of having live camera feeds and the ability to record anything going on within the sheriff's jail. No action is needed by the Finance Committee. I just wanted this committee to be aware that this is something that appears to be heating up a bit, and that corporate counsel, in addition to what Todd's been working on with him, will also be asked to get into the mix on the camera issue.
thank you. And I'm familiar with that, having been in the Wednesday meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, we were listening to that. Anything else that you'd like to tell us about this before we vote? Would you call the roll, please?
Thank you.
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. The next item, Superintendent Johnson.
Ready? Okay. Second one, South County Boiler project. We had, if you remember, earlier this year, we had one of the old boilers failed, and we got it replaced. Bitted it out, got it replaced. There are two there that handle that whole entire new side. Our hopes were to install a new one, have the older one help feed any kind of demands, and get through it till 21, 22, or whenever we got through all this whatever we're in, and go from there. Our plan didn't work. It seems that we have to do some pump resizing in that because of the new boiler, much more efficient, much more pressure. And the older second one couldn't handle engaging with it. So we need to get that second one replaced also. Now I talked to Doug a little bit about that. We have, through some of the other projects, the capital projects we have, there's some excess funds in there. We think we can fund that entire project through what we have in excess and not have to add anything or take from anything to get the project off. But I do need your approval to go out for bid, and that's kind of what we're looking for here.
Okay.
We'll let Doug take care of the money, he'll find it. He's good.
Commissioners, you have questions about this?
Yeah, Todd, this is Commissioner Scott. I guess I have a question. If we were replacing the boiler system, and there were specifications for that, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm a contractor. You know, if this stuff is out there, you know, as a contractor, to make sure that the pumps are sized correctly and say, hey, we're going to put this boiler in, but these pumps now to be replaced also.
Yeah, I mean, everything, and you'll see, if you remember back on the first one we replaced, I believe we're in the 40,000 area for the boiler, which the plan was to set it in, we can use what piping was there. Well, the second one that's coming in is going to replace all the piping, pumps, valves, everything needs to be replaced, and that's why the price is a little bit higher, which we tried to avoid with that first one. But yeah, those are all spec, everything's spec, head pressure spec. I mean, and they'll be inspected by the state before they put up the blue on line. So most of all of that will have to be identified, and it will be in specs when it goes out.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? And so this is for our knowledge and for us to say, go out for bids. Is that's what you're asking us to do?
Yes.
Yes. And what is your pleasure, commissioners, members?
I would be glad to make that motion to go out to bid for the boiler
Yeah,
replacement.
I'll
Okay.
support that.
All right. It's been moved and properly supported that we go out for bids. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
It passes. May I take a second and ask if you would tell us who you are that just joined at the table there?
This is Caitlin Stansel, 911 director.
I can't understand you with the mask.
Ma'am, it's Caitlin Stansel, the 911 director.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Welcome.
Absolutely, thank you.
Your next item,
Keep her moving, keep her moving.
The last one is the unit ventilator project, which we had bid it out last year. We put it in 4 phases just because of the cost of it and because that there needed to be engineering through the whole project. They pretty much showed up with parts and pieces of the actual units that we needed, and they had to build on the site because of where it is in the secured area of the jail. So basically, it's already been bid out. We are budgeted for it. I just wanted to speak to you, let you know that we pressure test those going into the season. We have 2 of them that failed pressure test. The old design, all the piping is in with the cement walls and everything else. It's a bear when they split and bust, and those seem to be on track to do so. Just because of the design where they're located at the jail. So it has been bidded out last year for the 4 sections of it. Engineering's been done. We are budgeted for it. We hope to put it off, but we're not going to be able to. Hopefully in 21 we'll be able to take a step back from it. But this is mainly just to clarify to you that we're going to go ahead with this project, because if I don't, Annette will be calling me and she gets really angry.
And is this something you have to go out for bids for? Do we need a motion for that?
No, we already did the bid process because we didn't want to, because we needed engineering. But we needed to break it into 4 sections because of the cost. We didn't want to
Okay,
rebid every 4 sections and then have to pay for engineering every time we did it.
yes, yeah, I see it. As I read it, I see where you did go out. So you're letting us know you're getting ready to do that this soon, right now? So before,
Yeah, we're getting into that area.
okay, and it won't be complete, you'll just do some parts of it?
We'll do 2 of them again, which will be actually half of the project. There are 8 that are located on that west side wall on the jail. And those are the ones that the design really doesn't fit the
Okay,
area.
do you, commissioners have any questions?
No,
No,
Okay, so go ahead. Are there any other things that are not written that you want to tell us about?
We're still working on the courthouse UPS, but that's for a later date.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I think it's time for the weekly discussion of will it be the jail or the mainframe completed first?
right.
my question, I was just gonna reiterate that and ask that question. Brian, I really was.
That is good.
And the tally is?
it's a,
Yesterday, it was said to me by a member of our finance department that he's been employed by the county for 13 years. And for 13 years, he's been told each year that this mainframe is nearly done.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, whoever has that on the A-frame, just know for the right amount of attention towards our department, I can unplug and move that thing anywhere you want.
with
Jail, not so much. Mainframe, I
the
can
jail
really
project will ever be done.
We'll make sure we let Director Swihart know that.
Sweetheart,
He's unaware.
sweetheart.
yeah. Thank you very much. Is the agenda, James, finance, the next one? What's the next thing on the agenda?
Yeah, Doug is on via Zoom, and he's gonna do the CARES Act update.
Okay, good morning,
You
sir.
have to unmute yourself.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
There you go. There you go.
Doug James,
Doug, I'm not picking up your audio. Maybe get
No.
closer or talk louder.
right. Hello,
Hang on. How do we make him louder?
it doesn't say it's it's not closed off.
Yeah, he's not muted, so I think we just need to get closer to, somehow the microphone's not picking you up.
Nope, still talking. What do we do? Can he come on the telephone?
Or we just go downstairs.
Just go downstairs and sit where Todd
Wear a
said.
mask though.
Simple process.
He's in the building, huh?
Yeah, he's upstairs.
Let's go to something else while he's coming.
You can tell by the blackboard.
Yeah.
Oh, you went off. Okay, so do you want to have Caitlin go ahead and then as we wait for Doug to come back on?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Good morning. As you see in the information that was given to you previously, so, and you're aware, we're moving away from our VHF system towards the 800 megahertz system with a projected dismantle or absolving our responsibility from that system at the end of 2022. Unfortunately, our Bertrand water tank site has failed. That equipment's old, and there's no replacement pieces for it. Our vendor has looked extensively and they cannot locate any. So we have received a quote from Telegraph to replace that microwave link from Bertrand Tower to Sumnerville, to bring that back on for our fire paging and operations communications down in the southeast corner of the county. And we do have those funds available in our maintenance budget for this year. The quote was for $31,575. We also got support from our 911 advisory committee to make that repair. Unfortunately, it's just timing. We were hoping that we could get that equipment to last us until we moved completely away from VHF, but we weren't that lucky. So we need to move forward with the repair on that.
When I read this, I wondered, is this for us, something for us to vote on, to make a motion to go out for, or what is it that you're asking us to do?
We have the funds available, and I do have the quote already. Administrator just wanted me to bring it for you to make sure that you were aware of what was going on with the system.
Okay, because I see what it says that your board agreed. Is there anything else for us to do, Administrator?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would recommend that if this committee supports the proposed project, that a motion be offered, a motion of support for the project.
Okay,
This is Commissioner Harrison. I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Scott?
Commissioner Scott will support this.
You're gonna have to be quicker, Ezra. You're gonna have to be quicker.
He's just doing it because he's all we got. He knows it. He's important. Both of you are so important. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any, sirs, do you have any questions of
No, I don't.
our director? And see, I didn't know, I had never met Caitlin, so I'm thankful to have you here today.
Yeah, Caitlin, this is the brain trust of the county board right here.
You're looking at it. This is it.
Yeah, we're the pockets. That's what I like to think. Yeah. So,
I know it's more challenging for you this way. Thank you so much. Just wanted to bring you guys into the loop and thank you for your support on that.
thank you. And would you call the roll, please, for our vote?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Doug James.
Hello, Doug
Yes.
James.
Doug is in the room.
All right.
Elvis is in the building.
Yep. Good morning.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully you can hear me better now. Okay. So you should have had forwarded to you a memo with regard to the CARES Act,
Yes. Yeah.
giving you an update.
Okay.
Okay? Attached to that is a numbered letter from the state of Michigan, which basically tells us how we are to account for the CARES Act funds. All right? We have two choices in accounting for that. We can use our existing funds and have it spread all over the place, or we can create a fund called CARES Act Fund. Okay?
Okay.
My preference and my choice would be to create a CARES Act fund so we can a lot more easily trace the expenses and the revenues related to that. Okay?
Yes.
So that's what my recommendation is. Now, on the CARES Act itself, there are three parts that we're seeing from our side right now. The first being the hazard pay premium program.
Oh, yeah.
Which they made $100 million available to the state did of federal funding available to the government all local units of government in the state of Michigan.
Okay.
We have applied for a portion of that. We have not been advised of the disposition of funds at this point. The second piece
is the Public Safety and Health Payroll Reimbursement Program, which they made $200 million available for that program. We have completed applications and submitted, along with all the rest of the local units in the state of Michigan. What we've been told so far is that they have more than an adequate amount of expenses to cover the $200 million. So we will be receiving a portion of that $200 million. We just don't know how much at this point. Okay? And the third part has to do with what they call the Coronavirus Relief Local Government Grant. And in essence, they have said that they would take our state revenue sharing that we would normally receive in the month of August. In this case, for us, that would be $891,000 and change. And we will not receive that revenue sharing, and then they will substitute funds for coronavirus relief that are coming from the federal government. And we received a payment of $1,385,000 and change. That was received August 31st. The strings attached are it has to be spent for coronavirus relief purposes. So my thought was, and my recommendation would be that we would create this coronavirus fund that the state is talking about, and that we move that $1.3 million in there in expenses spent so far, or excuse me, that we would move the $1.3 million funding in there, that as the funding comes through for these other programs, we also place that in there, and that the expenses that would come through that we could account for as coronavirus related would also travel through that fund.
Okay.
That would then free up a portion of the contingency that we have now committed in the general fund. We had committed $490,000 so far. That would then we would move those expenses to that fund, and then that frees up those contingency funds in the general fund. And that's what my recommendation would be. That's where they are right now. We haven't received any other communications at this point.
Doug, this is Bob Harrison. Is this time bound in any way, or what's the time frame for these expenses to be consolidated? Does it go back to March, or is there
that would go back to when they originally declared that, which was March,
I want to say
something like that. Yeah.
March 15th.
But it would be basically what we've expended thus far that we could actually attribute to coronavirus relief. We had set up in the general fund an activity to track that. That's where that contingency money was going to cover that. And then the health department also has an activity to track it. They also received some additional other funding besides this. So we're trying to make sure that we account for this appropriately and don't somehow double dip and have difficulty in that way.
So as an example, we're doing, testing in the jail. That would be an eligible expense for this account?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
inside the jail, the cleaning.
The cleaning, yeah, that would be an eligible expense. We would treat that under the Coronavirus Relief Local Government Grants, CCR LGG.
The testing of inmates or residents?
Yeah. Yep. As long as it doesn't fall within the funding that the health department has received for this as well.
Doug, question. Is any of this money bound for the health department? Or is this a separate thing where the health department gets their own CARES Act funding And then we're using this for what you said is our coronavirus relief. But my question is that I don't want to get into a situation where the health department is getting the bulk share of that money when there's other things that we need to look at. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. They've received funding, some funding. A portion of the funding is for the tracking efforts that are going on there, and the hiring of people. That's a separate grant outside of the bounds of what I'm talking about here today.
Right, but what I'm
So
saying
that would be,
what I'm saying is, Doug, is you want this all to go into the CARES Act reimbursement fund, or however
Yes.
you decide it, and then all of the CARES Act or all of the COVID related things will come out of that special account. Okay?
yes,
All right.
yes.
Where is the health department's money going that you're getting now?
He's not, oh, excuse me.
You see what I'm saying? This money that the health department is getting for their things, if that has to go through you in finance, doesn't it?
The money that they would be receiving that would be related to reimbursement for payroll expenses would come through us. We would move those expenses out of their funds over to this special fund. If it's for the tracking efforts that are going on that have been specially granted, it would not be a part of this. It would go through a health department fund.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. Are you getting that money that they're getting for the tracking? Does
No,
it come to the county? Because the health department is a department of the county. So if we go and do an audit later, we can't have a set of books for the health department and a set of books on the health department from the finance department.
no,
Correct.
no, I agree.
And I guess that's my question about the funds and where those funds are at. Because if you want to establish this new account, which I happen to agree with, because it's easier tracking and we can see how much money's we got in and how much expenses and how much we went out. My question is, if the health department is in that same fund that you're trying to establish, then is it going to be harder, or does the health department have to establish, do we have to establish one for the health department? Because they're getting their own grant monies and that. They're getting money also.
Correct. They are getting money also. They are dealing with that as they would any other grant that they receive. That would not come through this fund.
Okay, right.
And this, Doug, this is what I'm seeing. You told us there were 3 categories that this money was for. Some things
Correct.
I remember about the policemen and all getting extra pay, and other people have wondered why wouldn't they get it? But these 3 areas, you say it's already designated for. And so, but my question is, you're saying we get revenue sharing. Well, you know, you get that every year, and you must have had plans of what you were going to do with it. So then when I look, you say, but we're not going to get it. It'll be in one number that will be for our revenue sharing, including the money that they give us for the coronavirus. And when I do that, it's a difference of about $485,000. Can we say that that's what we get for the coronavirus, and the revenue sharing dollars are still there? But it says you can only spend all of it for coronavirus stuff.
Yes, that is correct. The state pulled back their revenue sharing for August and provided and basically tagged the amount that they would receive, or that we would normally receive, and added to it and said, this is coronavirus relief, this is federal money.
Yeah.
So that, if I can, is a manner in which the state, I think, has tried to balance things out here and utilize the federal funds that have been made available.
Okay.
So what we're seeing is is the general fund will get shorted by, right now, the the $891,000.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we're seeing the $1.3 million come through, and it's all tagged, it has to be for coronavirus relief.
Okay.
So unfortunately, yes, there were plans to spend the revenue sharing funds for something other than coronavirus relief, but this is what they did.
Okay.
And so we have to try to deal with the cards that have been dealt to us.
Right. And so if
Madam
you
Chair?
have to buy a car or a vehicle or a truck or something, we'll do it and charge it to coronavirus. And we'll use it for coronavirus.
Madam Chair?
Huh? What? Yes. Yes.
So, Madam Chair, this is Brian Bissett. Our goal today was to get the Finance Committee updated on how complicated the CARES Act implementation truly is. I didn't want the Finance Committee walking into the first round of budget hearings and learning more and more about the CARES Act just on the fly. This is one that it's a mixed bag. We are going to be losing our revenue sharing, but you are also receiving a very significant payment from the state of Michigan in the form of the CARES Act payments.
Okay.
What Doug has laid out is by setting up a CARES Act line item, he's going to be able to bring in about $1.38 million. Now we will lose $890,000 in revenue sharing, but by setting up this CARES Act line item, he'll be able to reimburse us for payroll expenses going back through March, for first responders, for health department, for EOC, for 911, and on and on. We'll be able to reimburse ourselves for PPE expenses.
Right.
But the biggest item is we will be able to reimburse our contingency line item, which is just it's essentially death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep.
All of these PPE expenses and COVID-related expenses are getting booked to the contingency line item right now.
Okay.
Because it was an unplanned event. By being able to reimburse your contingency, you're essentially making yourselves whole.
Okay.
So
Good.
this is less than ideal, but it's far from a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my goal today in making this committee aware of the fact that we are bringing in $1.38 million worth of CARES Act reimbursements, and there's potentially more that could be coming. Community development's in a conversation now with the MEDC about some additional block grant money possibly coming as a reimbursement for COVID-related expenses.
Okay.
We will be coming back to this group with more details.
And that assumes there's not another stimulus bill out of Congress.
They're working on
Correct.
something. They're working on something now. Heard them talking about it this morning. Thank you so much, Administrator. And Doug, I was subtracting and multiplying, and then I look here in the statement you said would free up a portion of the contingency fund for $490,000 in general funds. And that's what Brian just brought to our attention, because when I subtracted, I rounded it up to 900,000. I came up with 485,000. So the numbers are good. And
I'm glad, Madam Chairman, I'm glad you're checking his math. That is good.
it was something to look and see it. I thought, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. So I understand what you're saying. Thank you. And thank you for preparing it. So we can know.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
this is Commissioner Scott. I've got a couple of questions.
yes.
I guess I was kind of unaware of this, but now that I've been made aware of it, I'd like to see if I could get a copy of it. When we were talking about the health department and the grants, do we have a specific grant policy that
Yes,
the
we
board
do.
approved for the county?
Yes, we do.
Okay, all right, and
It is in your policies and procedures manual.
okay, I'll check that out. And then the other thing that I had is, I thought revenue sharing was a constitutional right, according to the state constitution. can the state mandate or change that as they want willy-nilly?
They can determine how you just spend it, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, revenue sharing is tied to the state constitution. Unfortunately, the state of Michigan had a significant budget shortfall. The way that they corrected that budget shortfall is by the acceptance of the CARES Act money that was passed by the federal government to the state of Michigan. The state is pushing CARES Act money out in a variety of ways. This is one of the ways that they're pushing it out. I don't know what else to say other than, yes, you're entitled to it via constitutional or tied to state law, but they were short.
I understand. I guess the thing is that they were short on the revenue sharing, Brian, but they were short when it came to taking that CARES Act money and not passing it down to the local governments until now, and giving the state police and the correctional department hazardous duty pay. And then we as a county board get inundated by our sheriff's department wanting the same thing, and our in the jails and everything else. So yeah, there is a little bit of a problem because this is money we should have been getting since day one. And now what they're doing is they're basically, the way I see it, is they're throwing us a bone. You know? Yeah, but that was my question, because it just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. I'm not saying we don't take the money, but I think it's terrible that the state is giving us the shaft a little bit on the revenue sharing. And then they're saying, oh, and by the way, this money that we are giving you is going to be tied to your loss of revenue sharing, but you can only use it for this.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know, that
We agree.
That's my point.
Yeah, Commissioner Scott, Doug and I are both nodding our heads saying your assessment is accurate.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's a shame, but I had to vent.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Tell us. Other things for us? So we said yes at make an account or make a line for specifically for the CARES. And it's easier to do it as you go along, to put these things in as you go along, rather than at the end of this that you're trying to
Right.
reinvent it. So what more do we need to do about that, making a?
I think you just by verbal concurrence
I thought it
that
was,
we
consensus.
proceed forward with it.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
I agree.
Commissioner Harrison?
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. James?
No, that's plenty for me today.
I have one comment though. Doug, the smartest person in the building is over there at the side table. And if you're going to be doing these Zoom meetings, you need to get with her and get yourself set up so that you know how to actually use the Zoom and the microphone and everything else.
Ezra, that is mean-spirited. That is.
No, it's not. It's a fact. And I feel sorry for Annette and I feel sorry for Doug. But Doug, you want to stay in your
Okay.
blackboard, you'll have to learn how to do it.
We'll take care of it.
The new world, Doug.
Our next appointment is for Parks and Recreation with Director Brian Bailey.
And he's right here.
Hi. How are you? Welcome.
Good morning.
And tell us what's going on.
Well, we're working on the acquisition of the 63 acres at Paw River County Park.
Yeah.
And as part of our grant process and our due diligence, we are doing some homework to find out with all the grants and to protect the county of liability, is there any contamination on the property?
Okay.
Brian, I
Up to
have a
5%.
question. I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This property was for sale. Now, whether the owner knew about the contamination or not, is the state in the DNR grant funding, what is their take on using DNR grant money to purchase a piece of property that has a contamination level to it? Because they're all about clean water, clean health, everything, you know what I mean? So how are they going to, what is their motivation to give us money to buy a contaminated piece of property?
Well, it's almost, Commissioner, it's almost like I don't want to use the word recycling, but for 100 years, we had a factory that contributed, or all of it came from that factory.
Right.
And so now that phase one park development that you've seen at Waterloo, Paw River County Park, some of that property is contaminated. We fenced some of it off. We mitigated it by putting 4 inches of concrete over some of that soil, and we've done what is acceptable to the DNR and to the Eagle Department of the State of Michigan.
Right.
We can do the same thing with this property, and I think it's very important that we take this property and we have an opportunity to say, look, we can take this contaminated property and make it public worthy for another 100 years.
Yep.
No, I was just, and I'm not saying anything about it. I was just asking, because whenever you're dealing with a contaminated piece of property, we by de facto taking over the road department, or the road commission into a road department, we had to go through and do an assessment on all the garages and everything else and all of the properties. But that was because we took over a department. Here we're looking at buying a piece of property for public use. Whatever the property owners have it for sale for, once it's found out to be a contaminated piece of property, is it a fire sale?
Well,
I don't like to put it that way, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
And
what's
I
it
think
going
it's
to
fair
cost? What's it going to cost the county? And I'm looking at a long-term thing. I'm not looking at this transaction. I'm looking at a very long-term thing, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Are we going to be on the hitch for a Superfund cleanup because we wanted to buy a piece of property for X amount of dollars, for a park? I just don't want to see us put into a liable situation.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes, sir.
So this is Brian Bissett. I'd like to follow up on that. So when a public entity is acquiring private property, more than likely you're going to end up having to do a baseline environmental assessment.
Oh, yeah.
The BEA is generally followed by a phase one brownfield or phase one site assessment if there's been any past commercial, industrial, or even agricultural use. It's generally viewed as just part of the process of acquiring property. Now, the benefit to spending the money on that BEA and potentially that phase one is that you are now establishing at the time that you take title that the local unit acknowledged what was on site, and the local unit is therefore not responsible for any of that past use. By spending the money at the front end, you're ensuring that you don't get stuck with the cost of any type of Superfund cleanup down the road. If it's a private-to-private sale, generally what you're doing is establishing everything that's wrong with the site, and then it's then eligible for brownfield reimbursement for site cleanup. With us being a public entity, there is no taxes being paid, thus there's no tax capture. So the real benefit here is essentially, it's like buying an insurance policy. We know that there's been some past contamination. We're establishing what level the contamination exists, and we're formally holding title that we are not the ones responsible for the creation of that contamination, and thus you're not going to be responsible for having to do any type of formal cleanup unless the county were desirous of doing that. If somewhere down the road you wanted to do some type of development that requires you to excavate, at that time you might be looking at doing some type of site cleanup. But right now, this is pretty standard. We can definitely have a conversation with the sellers to see if they're willing to help cover some of these additional unexpected costs. But the only way to proceed with this property acquisition is by getting this environmental work done.
Right, and I understand that because my own properties that I've had, when I've
Yeah.
sold them, they do a phase one or a phase two environmental, depending on what they find out. I'm all in favor of going forward to get the next phase done, okay, on this property, the environmental. I'm all in favor of doing that and approving that. But I still wanted that brought up, that what happens if we find out in the phase two that it's a lot worse than we ever thought of? Is that something that we're going to say, wait a minute, maybe we ought to walk away from this, or no, we're going to go ahead even though it is? I just want it being out in the open. That's all I'm saying.
And Commissioner, what I would say to that is, if we find something on site that is causing myself or Brian to have causes of significant concern, I guarantee you we will be back to this body before finalizing the property purchase agreement and actually taking title.
Right.
If there's something out there that's scary, you folks won't be surprised. We will update this board.
All right, thank you. I just was making a statement, but I'm in full favor of going ahead, Brian, with the second phase of that, so we can actually find out exactly what we are. I understand that whole process because I've had to do it before.
Madam Chair, I'd make that motion to proceed with the phase two.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I'll support.
Thank you. What I want to ask Director Bailey, this 5,400 expected, you think it'll cost about that? That's just to look at it, and then they come with a plan and say you need to do this and that. Is that what the additional money or the additional surprise might be to us?
Yes.
And I saw where previously you put some concrete over and it's things that you know what's reasonable or what is a lot. You and Brian both.
Correct.
Say this is too much or too bad.
Correct. We want to do both what's safe for the public and cost efficient.
Right. And so we're not bound into buying this if we decide that it's too bad.
No, we are not.
Okay. All right. Then any other questions, commissioners? Stephanie, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Yes, it passes. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
What's next? Let me-
So the next thing is your committee business, Mamie, and so we need an approval of the August 27th, 2020 minutes.
Okay, good. May I have a motion, please?
Bob?
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner
I will
Harrison?
second Bob's motion.
Any questions, changes? Oh, please call the roll. Stephanie?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Okay, public comment.
So I put it out there to ask for any public comments from Finance Committee, but you do have a couple other things. One is that contract modification from the road department. And I have Jason on here in case you guys had any questions about that, but that was to change, and then a net change to this contract of $5,743.03. So I don't know if you had any.
I remember seeing that. I was just looking at the agenda. Let's go to that. Is that one of these little boxes? Contract?
It's a contract modification. I sent that along with the motion language that you would use to approve that contract modification, if you're okay with it.
Okay, may I have a motion, please? I saw the motion too. It's on the top of something, on the top of the agenda.
I, Commissioner Harrison, move to approve the contract modification to bid number 2020-054 in the amount of $5,743.03 and authorize the county administrator execute the contract modification.
And
Commissioner Scott, I'll support that.
thank you. It's been moved and properly supported. Any questions? Jason is on the phone. Should you have questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Yarborough,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkleman, Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes.
So,
Jason, I'd ask you to stay there for a minute because I'd like to ask you about or say something about something else. Annette, you want to continue?
Yeah, so that's why we brought it on here, because we have the road payables today, and you have some of the road requisitions on the requisition list, and so I had you join the meeting in case you guys had any questions about any of those that were supposed to be moving forward today. So he's here if you have any questions.
Okay, do you, commissioners?
No, I'm good.
Good, good. Jason, I just want to say the groundbreaking was a really nice affair. I thought I was going to faint. It must have been 92 degrees.
It was hot.
Sitting on the asphalt, but it was nice to meet people and to see people. I'm just happy to be out, I guess. And what they're doing, they were really, really working. And so I want you just to tell us a little bit. I don't know that I totally understood. Is that where they want to make the walkways and the paths and things, but it goes into New Buffalo? I mean, that's quite a ways.
So that particular project is the Union Pier intersection improvement. So the entire project is about a mile long.
Okay.
So within that mile, there is going to be a trail, a path. There's going to be sidewalks. There's going to be lighting. There's going to be some benches and some trees. There's a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
We typically call those streetscape elements, and those are eligible for a lot of funding sources through MDOT. In this particular case, we weren't able to get that level of funding through MDOT, but both townships, the Pokagon Fund, jumped in and wanted to be part of this event. So not event, but the project. And then by them being part of it, it really turned into an event. And I'm just so happy that I had your support there, several other board members and Administrator Dissat. It was just, it was a great event that puts our best foot forward and really shows what partnering and partnerships can do, because this project I guarantee you is going to win awards because the level of cooperation, intergovernmental cooperation is just amazing. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I'm just happy that, that you were able to make it as well.
Yes, yeah. I thank you. Thank you very much. I was really impressed. And like I said, it was just well put together. In a short period of time, you did a lot.
Well, thank you. Yes,
And put
I
people
tell you what,
together,
my team's amazing.
see each other.
I'm so lucky to have the people I have working for me.
That's good.
I'd also like to compliment you, Jason, as well as Commissioner Scott for his relatively brief comments, given the 100-degree temperature. Thank you.
Yeah, so it was hot.
It was hot. There was no time. It was hot.
Yeah. But thank you. Thank you all for coming. There.
Jason, have you seen the letters that the board received regarding the Napier Avenue road diet?
Yes, I have. Yep, they've been forwarded to me, and I tell you what, they put a smile on my face every day. And if I'm having a bad day, I pull them out and read them again.
Have you looked at any traffic accident data for that stretch that's down to the 3 lanes?
So we will. Usually that data is about 3 to 6 months behind. So what we do is we pull it on a yearly basis, just to capture as much of that as possible. So my commitment to you all will be to probably on a yearly basis just put a quick synopsis together of where we are, where we were, and just let you know this is what it's looking like. It will probably be 2 to 3 years before we have a significant amount of data where we can really show the safety benefit. But I'm confident those letters captured a lot of what we felt would happen in terms of traffic calming and organizing traffic. So I really think we're going to realize those safety benefits. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, that's good. That was good to read. And that they're responding so quick.
Right.
You know, that's what's good. And it's kind of a shock when you're driving and all of a sudden it's 4 lanes.
Right. You're like, when it's that 3 lane, it feels nice, doesn't it? And all of a sudden when it's 4, now you feel like people are racing you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really neat. It really is. Are there any other comments? Okay, and that, where are we?
So I just asked a couple of times for public comments on YouTube, and you don't have any today, so we've got everything accomplished that we needed to, and I had said, perfect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you, Stephanie.
Good job.
Thank you, Administrator. Thank you, everybody. We
Madam
did
Chair.
a lot of business. Yes.
Yeah. Madam Chair, this is
Yes.
Commissioner Scott. This is a comment more for Brian,
Brian, who?
our administrator, Brian Doucette.
Well, I'm saying we have so many Brians.
I know. I would just like to make him aware that Saturday morning is when I'm leaving, and I will not be back probably to the 21st to the 22nd. And I'm going to miss the budget stuff. But even though I'm up in the mountains, I'm closer to the cell towers, and I do get some service every now and then. So no problems if I have to be emailed or texted or whatever.
And Madam Chair, I would like to officially announce my jealousy of Commissioner Scott's pending trip.
Yeah, I didn't know it. You're going to the mountains? You're driving Michigan?
We're gonna go and ride our all-terrain vehicles, our ATVs, and we're gonna pack them up with all the camping gear, and we'll be gone for 7-8 days once we leave the base camp, and we'll be riding in the mountains and camping
Oh, that's wonderful.
with the bears and the moose and the elk and the mule deer and the
Okay.
cougars.
Well, just be careful out there.
Well, last year, our first night in camp, we had a sow and 2 cubs come into camp. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And they got snow up in the mountains last night. So, yeah. But I wanted to let you know for the budget guidance.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I have a wonderful trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else, members?
Nope. I'm good.
Thank you so much. Thank you all, staff, and that. Stephanie.
All right, see you in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see you in about 22 minutes.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.